The shelter will close from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay? We will do sign-ins in the morning for the night stay. So
we originally began filming this documentary at the Family Promise Open Doors Emergency Family Shelter during a moment of uncertainty and high anxiety in the homeless services community. We didn't plan it that way, but we found ourselves in the middle of a very emotional moment. The city of Spokane had recently announced grant funding awards for emergency shelters like Family Promise. Those grants were dramatically less than either what was requested or what had been awarded the previous year. As a result, staff were being laid off, and more than half of the families in the shelter on the Friday evening we were filming would not be there by Monday. Families already experiencing the trauma of homelessness and life in the shelter discovered on Friday that they would need to make other arrangements by Monday. In other words, many of these moms and dads and kiddos would soon be sleeping in their cars again. While we began filming this documentary at a challenging moment for Family Promise and Open Doors, thankfully that wasn't the whole story. For the past several months, while we've been filming, Family Promise has been remodeling the old Cassanos Restaurant and Market at Napa and Mission, transforming it into their new and expanded headquarters and family shelter. It's a huge step up, going from a 2,600 square foot facility to a 6,000 square foot facility, with lots of room for expansion and more services for struggling families. And today, it's moving day.
So this is a lot more space than we had before, and it really amplifies what we're able to do in this space. Most of it's open space though, as you'll see over here. This is a day area where couches and chairs will be set up, and then at night this will convert to a night shelter. So mats will get pulled out, mats on the floor. We do mats on the floor because we have little ones under the age of 3, and so they're a fall risk if they're up on a bed, and so we do mats on the floor here. My favorite thing of this whole space is this kitchenette area over here. So 3 different times in our old space, I've walked in the kitchen and seen a mom just crying. And I asked her, what's going on? Why are you crying? And she said, I'm fine. It's just, we've been living in the car for the past 2 weeks, and I've not been able to make food for my own family. So this is the first time I make food for my own family. And so when we moved into this space, we wanted to build a space where families can cook food for themselves, have that importance of that. And we have 3 stations for this. It's set up like you would find, similarly to like you would find in an apartment kitchen. But we can also do cooking classes out of this space. So we're really excited about that. We also have brand new washer and dryer facility down the way, and a meeting space, classroom space, which we never had in our other facilities. So all of these things are super exciting for us.
We opened this documentary with Julie Garcia describing the personal ache of working with families experiencing homelessness. But homelessness is an ache in the heart of our community that affects us all. We ache for the 8-year-old living in a homeless shelter and worried about his mom because he loves her. We ache for homeless school students without a home of their own to go to or a bed of their own to sleep in. We ache for the family unjustly evicted for no cause, or forced out of their home and into a cycle of homelessness by dramatically rising rents. Or the family with young children waiting in line for a pair of new shoes to begin the new school year. They and many more embody the hidden homeless of our community. The collective ache we feel challenges each of us to do better, to get involved, and maybe to become a significant leader in our community. One of the themes of this documentary series is what it means to be a significant leader who works for the shalom, the well-being of others. I call these significant leaders shalom makers. In the course of this documentary, we've met a number of these shalom makers. But there's one shalom maker we haven't heard from yet. This person has spent the past 3 years pioneering data-driven solutions for families and students experiencing homelessness. Solutions that appear to be working.
I'm Ryan Ulrich. I'm the Executive Director of Priority Spokane. So 3 years ago, Priority Spokane identified student and family homelessness as a major issue for Spokane County. We partnered with a local university who researched best practices and looked at what else had worked around the country. And ultimately, we came up with a plan that placed community health workers directly in some of our highest need elementary schools to work directly with families to help them find housing. They were also given a flexible pool of funding to use to meet the needs of families. And from that, we ultimately were able to house 80% of the students in those schools who were facing homelessness. When we looked at how best to reach families that were struggling, we realized that so often it was teachers and school lunch ladies and school secretaries and principals that were identifying children that were coming to school with the same clothes multiple days without lunches, realizing that they were those best identifying families either that had already become homeless or were facing homelessness. So by placing our community health workers directly in the school, those staff were able to connect those families directly to that person and reach them the fastest. So our university's partners looked at best practices, they looked at data for our region. We had foundations that our members step up and fund this project, a local hospital, a local foundation, our health district. All of those pieces came together to make this work. We feel this is a model that can be used in other communities. That placement of a community health worker that's specially trained directly in schools, giving them a pool of funding that they can use when other resources are not available, was the recipe for success. And also just that collaboration, how you have these different pieces, these different players all working together to support this project. When we looked at homelessness in our region and looked at where to start, we realized that we absolutely need to better prioritize families. We realized that so often services were going and resources were going to individuals facing chronic homelessness, adults, and those folks need help too, but recognizing that if we could swim farther upstream and stabilize a child facing homelessness, we prevent them from becoming a homeless youth who becomes a homeless adult. So that prioritization process was especially important for this pilot project and being able to swim as far upstream as we could to address root causes. So of the families that we were able to house and stabilize, after 3 years, 95% of those families remained housed and stable and no longer in need of our services or help. So that was really exciting for us.
In our journey alongside families experiencing homelessness here at Family Promise, we've interviewed numerous staff and families about their journeys through homelessness. And most of those people, faces, and stories don't even appear in this documentary, mainly due to time constraints. But they've taught us some important lessons along the way. They've taught us that the face and the story of homelessness isn't always the one we might expect, like the grandmother from Mississippi, homeless with her granddaughter, because being homeless was better than what they left. They've taught us that there isn't a single cause for family homelessness, only two common denominators: a loss of community or relationship that's left them abandoned and alone with no one to turn to, and deep personal trauma that's left them wounded and vulnerable. And at the end of the day, families experiencing homelessness here at Family Promise or at St. Margaret's Shelter or the Salvation Army are asking you and me two basic questions. Are you going to be the next group to abandon me, or will you help me find community? And are you going to add to my trauma? Or are you willing to help me heal? They need our help and our fearless compassion. They can't do it by themselves. If they could, they wouldn't be in a homeless shelter.